Canada's British Columbia has declared a state of emergency as wildfires rage across the province. More than 20,000 people have fled their homes so far, and fire officials there are describing wildfires with flames up to 100 meters high, fire fronts that create their own storm fronts, complete with lightning strikes that spawn even more blazes. Now here's how BC's Premier described the current situation in the province.
Extremely dangerous and changing minute by minute. The fires are moving incredibly quickly. This new fire marks a significant shift in the overall fire situation in our province. Today, based on the advice of emergency officials, Minister Green has declared a provincial state of emergency.
Now, Minister Green, as mentioned there, is British Columbia's Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. She expressed her sympathy with residents who have been forced to flee their homes in the face of these out-of-control blazes.
We are facing an intense and harrowing situation in the Summerland area, and it is so difficult to be evacuated and not know when you will be able to return, not know what you'll be returning to, whether your home and your community will still be there. And the wait for news about the well-being of your loved ones can be absolutely devastating.
Now we're going to dive into what is fueling these wildfires in just a second. But before we do, let's take a look at this. It's a map provided by the Canadian government that tracks wildfires across the country. Right now we're talking about fires striking the western part of the country. But if you zoom out, I wanted to show you this. This shows you the extent of the blazes across all of Canada. It's really, this fire season is really impacting the entire stretch of what is one of the largest countries in the world. And it's an image that we've been seeing time and time again also here in Europe, where previously, if you looked at the fires striking France and Spain earlier this year, instead of just having small regional fires, we're seeing a fire season that's striking the entire part of the country all at once. Now, let's bring in our guest so we can dive in a little bit deeper into what is behind these fires. I'm now joined by Dr. Anabela Bonada, Managing Director of the Intact Centre on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo in Canada. So Anabela, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
So it seems Canada is once again facing a severe fire season. How serious is the situation in the country right now?
Unfortunately, it's very serious. So this is now our fourth consecutive year of worst seen wildfire seasons. We've never had this before in Canada. This is unheard of. And as you just saw, BC has had to declare an emergency province-wide, not just in that region that is highly affected right now. So this is a dire situation for us. We're at a level 5 preparedness. So that means that all of our resources are being distributed across the country. As you just showed on the map, we have wildfires occurring every province and every territory. So we're highly impacted right now.
Now, as you were just saying, this is the fourth consecutive year of severe fire activity. Now, how exceptional is 2026 compared to previous years?
It's on par with the last few years. So 2023 has so far been the absolute worst for us on record, and now we're trailing closely behind. This is like a level 3 right now, what we're looking at. So if 2023 was the worst, and 2024, 2025, this one's falling around that third level. But we still have another couple of months to go of this wildfire season. And as we've seen, things have quickly shifted in BC. So we can't really tell where the rest of the year of the fire season will go.
Now, with so many intensive years of fires, one after the other, is that giving the government more experience with dealing with these type of fires, or is it stretching resources thin?
Both. So as you saw just now with BC has been experiencing pretty severe wildfire seasons for many years now, starting, 2017, 2018. So they're actually very used to this kind of wildfire season, even though, of course, this one is having a major impact. But as a nation, yes, there's a lot that our government is learning, that has been learning. So after each wildfire season over the last few years, there have been announcements to do more on preparedness, to purchase more water bombers, to train more firefighters. So more is happening. Unfortunately, the wildfire seasons are outpacing that preparedness front that we do have happening. So there's still a lot of work that needs to continue to occur as these seasons are continuing in our country.
Now, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to answer here, but to what extent can these fires be linked to climate change, and to what extent are they part of Canada's natural fire cycle?
Yeah, so really putting a number to that is difficult right now. We don't have the exact science to show that, at least for this year. We do know, for example, in 2023, the Quebec wildfires were made much more likely due to climate change. What we do know is that climate change is extending our wildfire season. It's starting earlier and ending later. Climate change leads to more of these hot, dry, windy days that help spread these flames. And as you mentioned, these flames are 100 meters high. We haven't seen that before, only over this last couple of years. So there's a lot that's happening that we keep calling unprecedented. And because, climate change is a real driver behind that. The other thing that climate change does is it causes severe drought and ongoing drought. So all that great vegetation that we have here in Canada, it builds up over the winter months, over the fall months, especially out in BC that has a lot of rain. And then when these seasons occur and they dry out, there's just much more fuel for the fires to burn.
Now, we've seen massive wildfires here in Europe in the last several months, and many have linked them to the so-called super El Nino year that seems to be playing out right now. Is that also playing a role in these wildfires we're seeing in Canada?
It could be for Canada, the real impacts of the super El Nino are mostly experienced in the winter months and then in the spring. This one, of course, is a very different El Nino that is just starting off, and its biggest impacts do tend to be in the West Coast for us. So in British Columbia, where you just showed, for example. However, with that in mind, we did know before the season started that BC, especially with these wildfires are happening in the interior, was a very high-risk season. They had a lower snowpack over this last winter. There was ongoing drought conditions, not a lot of rain even in the early spring. So we knew going into the season that interior BC was high risk, and that most of Canada was going to have warmer than normal temperatures for the summer months. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing explosive wildfire occur across the country. And this was all already seen before we even knew that an El Nino was developing.
Okay, so help me break this down a little bit. We know that these wildfires are becoming more intense, more frequent. Is the Canadian government changing its attempts or its strategies when it comes to mitigating some of these fire risks? Are we seeing new tactics being developed?
Yes, absolutely. So it is mixed, because even though there is a lot that's being done, there's always more that we can do. But we've seen major changes over the last few years. So before, 100 years ago, we wouldn't really let the natural part of wildfires occur. We'd put them all out. We would suppress wildfires. Now we're managing those wildfires. So when they occur in our boreal, in our grasslands, we allow them to burn, and that really maintains vegetation lower. So there's a lot more management occurring when it comes to wildfire. We're investing more in our firefighting resources that we have across the country. What I would say the government could improve on is the preparedness side in those months where we're not experiencing the intense wildfire season by, providing education materials, for example, to homeowners, to residents on how to reduce risk at that home level. And of course, always better funding towards municipalities so that they can sustain the program that we have in Canada, which is called Fire Smart, that it's a sustained program in each province so that we can fire smart our communities and our homes.
Now, one environmental historian I recently spoke with said that we are living in a new age that he called the Pyrocene, or the age of fire, because of man-made climate change. Looking ahead 10 or 20 years, are these kinds of wildfire seasons likely to become more of a new normal for Canada?
Unfortunately, the answer is yes, especially after the 2023. I go back to that year because that was an absolute record year for us. After 2023, scientists in Canada said, if the next few years mirror this year, then we know we're headed to a new normal. And that's exactly what's happening. We're in 2026 now, and we're not seeing wildfire seasons improve. If we don't make any changes to our emissions, to lowering greenhouse gases as Canada and, of course, as the world, we're not going to see these impacts go back. So we need to do everything that we can to better prepare our communities, and of course go back to reduce emissions where possible. Really invest in our commitments to become a country that is like net zero by 2050. That would be wonderful.
Now, we often talk about when it comes to reducing emissions, kind of where we put the onus on there. Do you think that change needs to come from the consumer side? Is this something that I can help with by eating less red meat and driving less? Or does the solution need to come from the world of politics or business?
It's mixed, but I do encourage consumers to really push for the change. So if businesses can't sell to you because you're not interested in their product, then they will need to make changes to how they run their business. So as consumers, we have a ton of power here. So if we choose to only purchase from organizations and companies that have made a commitment to reduce their emissions, then they will have to. That will become the new thing that they do for us. So I don't want to say that they're the only ones responsible, that us as consumers, but I do want to express how much power we have as consumers to really cause change when it comes to reducing our emissions.
All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. That was Anabela Bonada from the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks again for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from DW News.